Good evening and welcome to round 4 of our 1987 PPG IndyCar World Series, coming to you from the Meadowlands Sports Complex in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I am Jonatan Acerclinth and I will be your play-by-play announcer for today's event. Our drivers, I believe, are about a minute away from completing the qualifying run. But in the meantime, last time out, we witnessed a rather high attrition run at Portland International Raceway. Despite ample runoff space, several top contenders were sidelined due to accidents or damaged suspension. In the end, it was Anders Nilsson who came out on top in his Mackenzie Financial Lola, earning 20 points for the victory and 1 additional point for leading the most laps. Naturally, Anders will be looking to build on that momentum in today's race, and several drivers will be looking to bounce back from their DNFs in Portland. The track, as we mentioned, is the Meadowlands Sports Complex. So let's have a look at that. First off, as a full disclosure, we are aware that this version of the Meadowlands course was introduced in 1988, and this is the 1987 event, but unfortunately no one has built the 1987 version of the track for sim racing, so we are defaulting to the 1988 layout. And I believe entering the booth now is our color commentator, Alberto Ibañez. Good evening, Alberto.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here again.
And I'm happy to have you along for the ride here tonight. It's going to be a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Meadowlands is not the track that was most beloved by the public, but it's certainly still a great racing venue. It's very fun with these Indy cars because, dragging these 700 horsepower cars around this very small and tight venue is going to be quite challenging. So it always results in something that is worth watching.
That is definitely true. And speaking of the track, the circuit has often been described as a distorted oval, or what I would believe is an American term, a roval, being a road course that has oval attributes. Because our drivers will mainly be turning left at high speed and really only be turning right twice at very low speed. Do you believe they will be running more of an asymmetric short oval configuration? Or how do you think the drivers will tackle this event tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you are setting up your car, what you really want is to have the tires happy. The tires are the ones that are providing the grip. So you want them to have even temperatures and to be as efficient as possible. And in this case, as you very, very rightfully said, this is a track that has only 2 turns to the right. And that means if you set up your car in an asymmetrical way, very much like an oval, you are going to be benefiting from actually forcing more the tires on the proper side and getting more of the grip from all of them. So yeah, I'm absolutely sure that all the drivers are going to go for an asymmetrical setup, and that this is certainly the winning aspect of the track here, to be able to dial the car properly to the specific circumstances of this track. And for sure, this is the case here with the Rovals, as you said.
So most of the drivers then will probably be basing their setups on the setups they had for Phoenix, the first round of this championship this year.
That's a good starting base, that's for sure. The only thing that is will going to vary from there is basically the wings, because here the cars are running the full road course configuration, which means they have bigger rear wings. So even if you don't see it, if you can make it out, they actually have bigger wings on the rear, and the settings reflect that. So you get here a bit more downforce in the rear, and the cars are going to have in that regard more grip because it's a road course. The tires are also different, but still the logic of the setup still applies. It's the same thing because you will be turning mostly to the left, as you said.
Hmm. Um, but I take it there will also be some taking the more conventional way of setting up a car, but in terms of telling who does what, probably we'll only be able to tell if we ask the drivers. But the biggest challenge, 150, probably very frantic laps around this sports complex, this concrete canyon as it is set up. Do you think that will
That's a very
be
good way
quite
to describe
tiring?
it, certainly.
Hmm. Do you think that will be tiring for the drivers at all, or is it um, a boon that there are only two right turns and most of it is actually fairly high speed?
I think that is always tiring for the drivers is when things get stressful. I mean, when you have to do a lot of gear changes and a lot of adjustments in the car with the steering wheel and everything in a very short time. So in that regard, I think that this is a track that even if it is a road course, it's not so overwhelmingly tired because if you look at it from a track map, I mean, then you will see that we have basically two very long sweeping fast sections when you are going up with the gears and then down with the gears shifting, but only the section on the that is slow, the section on the right side of the map is the one that is going to require more of a job when you are like trying to make the car go through very tight spaces and all of that. You have a very ample space in the main straight,
Hmm.
and you're basically just upshifting, going there to the first turn or the second turn if you don't count that small kink after the main straight, and then you go again on the long sweeping slightly left leaning straight that is the backside of the track, and then you go for that chicane. So I think that this is not really, in terms of being a road course, this is not the worst track in terms of stress for the drivers. So I don't expect them to be in that regard so much like worn out after 2 hours of race. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, probably some good bit of fun then tonight, and uh, one of the aspects probably that we'll need to keep a lookout for as well is drivers realizing that they may have brake too late and be okay. I'll take to the access road here and just lose some time instead of possibly damaging the car.
Yeah, you have mentioned that there are only two right turns in this track, but I think that the aspect that is more close to an oval in this case is the fact that you have walls. All around the track there are walls and they are very unforgiving. So the main issue here is, as you had said, is if you are judging wrong the approach speed, the break point, uh, any of those circumstances, you're going to crash and you're going to crash against the wall, which means you're probably out of the race. So I expect a big attrition in that regard, not so much, as we said, because of the stress that the track puts on you per se, because of the layout and that, but basically due to the fact that there are unforgiving walls all around.
Hmm, very much so. Uh, Speaking of making use of the, well, speaking of, but making use of the track, qualifying top 10, Niklas Kirsten quite considerably took the pole by uh, about 2.5 tenths. Ahead of Brian Yannick with Anders Nilsson lining up third. Grant Ridall was fourth, Dave Miller fifth, Ray Ridall sixth, Alberto Jr. seventh, Jules Buchard in 8th, Richard Wilkes in 9th, and David Saber running out of top 10 in qualifying. So mostly the, I'd say, expected drivers. The one that I would say is a bit of a surprise to see as far back as they are is Jonatan, only 12th in qualifying.
This is certainly one of the things that I wasn't expecting. I mean, when I came to study this race before this broadcast, I was looking very much forward to it. I was absolutely convinced that Jonatan would be shining in this track. The March 87 is the chassis. We have already talked about this in the previous races. The March 87 is a car chassis that is very much suited here. Not so much as the Lola, because the Lola is a car that has a bit more understeer. It's a car that is very good because of its slippery nature to the ovals. But the March 87 is a very, very agile chassis. So I was expecting Jonatan to do really well here, and it has surprised me a lot that he wasn't able to qualify hard. I don't know what the cause is, but I can tell you that the warm-up is showing lap times in his case that are very, very promising. And look, my money would still be at him being there at the top. I think even a victory is in the cards because this is a big attrition race. But I think at least a top 5 should be in the cards for him due to the price that I'm seeing here right now.
So maybe that's a case of him getting a banker lap in, but then not quite being able to keep it between the concrete walls and having his qualifying attempts thwarted them. But one of those things around this kind of track.
Yeah, I don't know what the case is, but for sure he's going to do well in the race.
It certainly looks that way. Let's have a little look at the point standings going into today's race, where we can see that Jonatan is the championship leader at the moment, having qualified 12th, but having been very consistent in his finishes so far this season. Equal second is Brian Yannick and Grant Riddall, each on 38 points, only 1 point behind. And equal fourth is Niklas Kirsten and Anders Nilsson, both on 32 points. What would that be? 7 points adrift. So very tight up at the top in the championship.
Yeah, and you mentioned here a very interesting point, that is that Jonatan has been very consistent. And this is something that I have mentioned many times here in the broadcast. This is very much the same as when you are doing your soccer or football league or baseball league or whatever. And that means the league is not won in the big matches against the biggest rival. The leagues are won basically in the so to speak, second-rate stadiums, in the second-rate matches. This, the Meadowlands, I think is a great example. I mean, everybody's thinking about Indianapolis, about the big ovals like Michigan and all that, the tracks with the glamour and the history like Long Beach and all that. But the thing is, if you want to be there at the top of the championship when the season ends, you have to do well in the tracks like Meadowlands, the more obscure tracks, the ones that are not so much loved maybe by the drivers. But in any case, they are points-paying venues. Indeed. So it's very important, really, that you do well here.
Very much so. Speaking of points paying, the point scheme for this series, again, 20 points for first, 16 for second, 14 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth, 8 for sixth, and then dropping by 1 point from 7th to 12th, 6 points for 7th, 1 point for 12th. Additionally, a point is scored for pole position, which would go to Niklas Kirsten this evening, which I believe would mean that he is now equal championship leader. No, let me quickly double check, my memory is not quite with me on that. No, but he is alone in fourth with Anders Nilsson and in fifth. My memory sometimes
Yeah, it's a very American point-paying system, I think, in that you got points for everyone that is taking part, so to speak. But then again, at the same time, you're rewarding the ones that put more effort, the ones that go into the winning positions, and especially the ones that are like giving the most of it, like the pole position point. or the most laps led point shows.
Indeed. Also to be considered is that 1 point is scored for most laps led. Let's see. We also, as per usual, have a fuel limit for this race. Which is 3 full tanks, 122.36 gallons or 463.2 liters for the race. The drivers must start with a full tank and they have unlimited tires. Probably the fuel won't be an issue around this place, but more than likely will be the engine temp situation, I'd imagine.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as far as I know, and I've talked with Little Al about this, he said that the problem with the fuel is not so much the one that you're using, but that if you go too much up in the boost, what you're basically doing is overheating the engine. So in that regard, the problem here becomes the temperatures. And because even if you have two quick sections, this is a stop and go track, because it's still an urban circuit, you are going to have many accelerations from low speed, from really low speed, even, which means that the engine gets to overheat a lot. I mean, it's towards the end of those big launches, of those big straights, when it's starting to get a bit cooled down due to the airflow. But when you are accelerating from the lower speeds, then it basically just gets absolutely hot.
Well, that's certainly something the drivers need to be careful of tonight. I think we'll have a little look at the trivia questions. You have something to ponder for this hectic event, and then we'll try to hitch a ride with someone before warm-up is over. The trivia question for you tonight is who won the Meadowlands IndyCar race the most times? Was it A. Mario Andretti, B. his son Michael Andretti, or was it C. Bobby Rahal? And I will say I got that wrong when I tried to answer that earlier.
It's again another wicked question, and you can see the hand of Jason White behind it, because certainly any one of those could have been the correct answer. As far as I can tell, and what I would say is that given the years that we're talking about, I would either go for Mario Andretti or Bobby Rahal. Probably the latter one, but any answer is possibly correct.
Indeed. Let's see if we can catch a ride with Dave Miller here. Looks like he is getting ready to, in a couple of moments' time, start a lap. So here we come, out through the final turn, through turn 1 and then into turn 2. Long sweeping left-hander, very easy to run wide there, and that tire on the outside there is very dangerous. Down into turn 3 here, hard braking zone, difficult to get it right. And then into turn 4, this right-hander, like you mentioned a chicane earlier. Second chicane, turn 5 and 6. Very tight, very easy to hit the wall on the outside on the exit here, and then through the final turn. And try to squeeze as much power as you can without running out into the outside wall.
Yes, you can say it's basically two very, very quick sections where we are going upwards with the gears. Then a big braking part, and then the sweeping rear of the track section.
Indeed. So, drivers are getting ready to hit the grid. And my broadcast assistant over here wants something, but hopefully it won't be too disturbing for you if she is very talkative.
Okay, lining up for the start now.
Righto. So, as we mentioned, Niklas Kirsten on pole, Brian Yannick second, Anders Nilsson third, Grant Riddall in fourth, Dave Miller fifth, Ray Riddall in sixth, Alberto Jr. in seventh, Jules Bouchard in eighth in the Penske racing car, Richard Wilkes in ninth, and David Saber in 10th. Wilkes in a new car in the Gallus Racing machine. David Wattman 11th with John Tim in 12th. Juha Bors in 13th with Jason White 14th. Filippo Marazzi in a one-off drive for Machinists Union Racing lines up 15th. Simon Wattman lines up 16th. With Rune Chacon in 17th. And Thiago Canola in a one-off drive for the Hemmelgarn Racing team will line up 18th. And already coming around to start the race.
And there's a green flag.
And we are rolling, and looks like Niklas is good to take the lead here. Let's see if everyone survives the first turn. No, someone is off. Oh, it's David Saber. He qualified in the top 10 and he's already out. Yikes.
Yeah, I think I had to veer to one side because he was a bit optimistic there on the braking, and he found a car in front of him that wasn't so aggressive in the braking. That's really tough luck for him. Be out there on the first corner.
Definitely. So Kirsten leading, Nilsson second, Riddall Grant third, Miller fourth, Yannick fifth, Bouchard sixth, Bors seventh, Tim eighth, and the rest coming in behind.
Yeah, and you see John Tim is already up to 8th, which means a 4 positions gain already there in the first corner.
Yeah, that's mightily impressive.
If you are able to find the gap.
Grant challenging, trying around outside. Oh, Nilsson now deep in turn 3, and Grant trying for the cutback in 4, but not able to make it happen.
Yeah, these first turns are the phase of the race when everybody is very much aware that if you are stuck behind the driver that will have a long-term pace that is slower than you, then your race is going to be basically ruined. You need to get as soon as possible in front of him. So this is why we're seeing so much jogging for positions here. But I think in 2 or 3 laps, all of these will be like over, and everyone will settle in the rhythm position and think that strategy is the thing that will basically win the race for him or the position.
Ooh, that is tight between Bouchard and Bors, but you're definitely right. And I think, sort of like you're saying there, choosing your battles as well will be a big part of this race. As we could see on screen there, when Bors tried to break up the inside of Bouchard, but not able to quite make that work.
But Dave Miller was also able to put the March 87 there up in 4th position, which is quite interesting how he slot there right behind the Lolas of the dominant trio that we have seen in all the races. Brian Yannick is right behind him, and again, I think this is an honorific mention that we must do. Jules Bouchard there dragging the Penske.
Indeed, that's the Penske
into the
PC16,
6th position at the moment. Yeah, the PC16, which is a car that you wouldn't really expect to be up there. I mean, both Rick Mears and Danny Sullivan were able to poke some things out of it, but let's be honest, this wasn't really the chassis to have, and it was dropped mid-season by the Penske team in favor of the previous year March 86s. Still, like I said, a very remarkable feat to be able to hold on there with the car to 6 in this position right now.
Well, I'd imagine one of the reasons is the best overtaking opportunity is down in turn 3. And the Penske there is running the Ilmore Chevrolet, one of the most powerful engine package in the grid, and I'd imagine that helps a little bit pulling out of this turn 2. Ooh, as both of them gets close to the wall on the exit there, as this Jon Tim and Richard Willicks in behind them.
Absolutely. I mean, the Chevy engine was experimental in this season still. It wasn't like widely spread because only some teams were developing it. But it was certainly more powerful, not so reliable, but for sure more powerful, a bit more of fuel use, obviously, but still a very good engine, and it shows because compensating the lacks of the things that the Penske chassis wasn't able to do well.
Indeed, and there goes Yua, slingshot off the final turn and maybe a bit of boost as well, and able to drag past Bouchard and up into 6th Boss goes. And up ahead it looks like Yannick is challenging Dave very considerably now, looking up the inside going into turn 3. And I know for a fact Dave really didn't like driving at Portland, but I know he enjoys Thruxton, which is one of the other tracks in the world which leans itself to possibly going an asymmetrical setup, and I'd imagine they may very well be on an asymmetric setup here, and he's doing very well in that Patrick Racing car so far in this race. Although here comes Brian again, but not able to make it work. Dave stays in 4th.
Meanwhile, on the back, Bouchard has dropped 2 positions. Both Tim and Wilkes have been able to overtake him. And I think this is showing one of the main issues of the Penske chassis, and that's the lack of proper traction coming out of the turns. Yes, he can stretch the legs due to the Chevy engine when they are coming to the end of the straight. But the thing is that when you do the overtaking, it always actually happens before people tend to think. To the casual observers, it seems that the track leans itself to the most powerful engine being able to overtake at the end of the straight, but in fact that race was actually won at the beginning of the straight. The way you are catapulted out of the previous turn, the traction that you get there is what determines basically what your terminal speed would be towards the end of the straight. And in this case, the poor Penske chassis isn't able to put down the power as well, which means that at the end of the straight, even if it is more powerful, it won't have so much top speed, and that's the reason that people are overtaking him.
Indeed. It looks like the prediction that Jason had of lappings is correct, because 9 laps in, which is roughly, let's say, 7 minutes, lappings are happening, and Nielsen gets poked quite a bit behind Simon Wattman there in the turn 5-6 hairpin. Oh no! Someone spun! Holy moly! What an avoidance! Hey! That was close. Was that Marazzi, I wonder, who had a spin? It is, and he's still trying to get going.
There in the main straight.
Yikes! I'm not sure who needs the new underwear more, whether it's Marazzi or if it's Wattman and
it's Marazzi and
Nielsen. Yikes!
Maneuvering there. Bit of a dangerous situation, but I think he's able to recover it now because he knows that all the cars have gone by, and indeed there he goes. There he goes now. Here comes the leader. It's a lap on him. And the top 3, Anders Nilsson and Grant Ridal, they make it by safely. This is a good thing, and hopefully now Marazzi will be able to resume race pace.
He might, considering how long it was stationary, he might need to just take a couple of laps to let the car and then let the engine especially just cool down a little bit, because very little airflow, and I do believe these are more or less like the F1 cars back in the day, if you didn't have airflow going in, it got quite warm quite fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are ground effect cars, and the tires don't even start working until you get a lot of downforce putting stress on them. Obviously, the tires are designed to cope with the stress of the downforce that the cars can put there. Oof, there Juha was Richard Weeks.
Yikes!
That was heavy. Yeah.
That's a pass and a half, and good save from Juha there.
Yeah, I should say that Juha hasn't been comfortable in this car for the whole of the season so far. I mean, in the ovals, it certainly goes well, and it shows, but I think that Juha's post talent here in the road tracks is a bit like under the expectations that you would have. Oh, here comes John Tim. Very close to him, putting some pressure.
Oh, a bit loose coming out of that. I wonder if Juha has used a bit too much of his tires here, as Jon has a think about it and sneaks his nose up the inside, effectively going, well, are you going to leave me room? Because I'm at least going to have a look. Oh, and Juha smacks the wall then. I wonder if that might have caused a little bit of damage, maybe. Oh, that car looks not very happy right now.
It's a bit too early in the race to talk about tire wear, but...
Oh, that probably sealed Juha's race. That car looks very unstable right now. Yikes. Yeah, I think his suspension might be a little bit bent. It looks like he's crabbing down the straight there.
Oh, not a good thing there. It's one of those things that you, as a driver, hate. And that's when very early in the race you get damage. And you have to do the whole race like fighting the car. It doesn't flow, you're just coaxing it into the corners, and it feels so horrible. I mean, it's like hell on earth.
Yeah, it definitely does not look nice at all driving that car, so... Yikes! Yep, that's unfortunately Juha out. Car got too taily on him, and yeah, that's that. That's unfortunate.
That puts everybody one position up, which means Jules Bouchard is in 6th, Little Al is in 7th, Raridal is in 8th, David Watman is in 9th, and Tiago Canola rounds up the top 10.
Indeed, and I also noticed we have both Brian Yannick and Dave Miller into the pits. I wonder if they both, because they were together on track earlier, I wonder if they may have had a moment together, maybe.
That could very well be the case, because it's absolutely too early for a pit stop. It's 150 laps in this race, and with 3 tanks of fuel, that means 2 pit stops, so it's absolutely even, like 50 laps per tank. So this can only mean damage, and the length of... Oh, and Grand Ridal, I can see him without the front wing pitting in.
Oh dear.
That's very unfortunate.
Let's see if we can catch what happened there. Oh no. That is a turn 3 issue. Took just a bit too much on the inside there, and it knocked the wing off. That's very unfortunate. That'll be a... I'd imagine maybe 2 or 3 laps behind by the time he exits the pits here. Maybe more. That's very unfortunate. And having started from the back, Tiago Canola already up into 9th.
Yeah, attrition is very big in the race, we've already mentioned it. And look at Jules Bouchard. I mean, if you can put the camera on board the Penske in the cockpit view, I think everybody will be able to realize how much Jules Bouchard is working on the wheel. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, here in the fast section, it's not so much, but watch what happens as soon as he comes into the turns. There's some corrections here, but watch what happens as soon as he goes into the slow section. Heading now there, braking here, braking for him, down the gears, and here starts the dance. Look at that. I mean, correction there to avoid the wall. Here, counter steer, correction, goes in, goes out, correction, bit of counter steer, goes into the next one. And always trying to be smooth to coax the best out of the car. But I can tell you, the work that he's doing at the steering wheel is like about 25% more than everybody else in the race is doing on his own car. So hats off to Jules Bouchard for the way he's driving here and bringing the Penske right now up to 5th.
It's mightily impressive, definitely. Equally so, Jon Tim, having started in 12th up to 4th here, and Richard Wilkes with the Brabham Honda engine, pulling quite a quick lap out of the bag, doing the fastest lap so far in the race, running 3rd.
Yeah, very impressive there. And Jon Tim, as I already mentioned, is there up in 4th. 16 seconds from the head of the race, but that gap is actually shrinking. And the thing with the Lolas here, which means Niklas Kersten, Anders Nilsson, and granted has been in the pits and is now obviously way more on the back. But the thing with the Lolas is they are very understeery. We have seen already Juha suffering from that. And even if they are quick at the beginning, you have to manage very well the car and the tires, because otherwise you're going to basically be overheating them so that the car gets well into the corners. And you can do that for some corners, but after some time, it means that the car will be basically struggling to go into the corners. So, whoops, we got a yellow flag, we got a caution. Of course, yellow. What has caused that? I think that's Bruno Chacon just in the... Oh, and Filippo Marazzi, my goodness. The whole track is blocked there.
Dear. Oh, and Simon Wattmann involved.
Lots of debris there. Now, this is something that is going to favor big time Grant Riddle, because he had a good rhythm that was basically just stopped due to the... They barely missed the tire.
So looks like
I said, his pace was basically hampered. Oh, Richard Wilkes also in the pits. I think he must have crashed there also.
Yeah, Wilkes. Yeah, Wilkes hit Marazzi very hard, and Chacon followed, and Wattmann followed. So Wilkes, Marazzi, Chacon, and Wattmann heavily involved. Jon Tim just about avoided it coming around the turn. All started with Marazzi unfortunately locking the rear tires. Going down into turn 5.
Into the chicane. I mean, if there is a place that is probably the worst to have an accident and block the track, it's probably that turn. I mean, it's a blind turn going to the chicane. Everybody wants to go there very quick, because the next thing that you have there is the acceleration towards the main straight. So it's like, it's a bit of a dice. Everybody goes there in kamikaze mode. And yeah, if you find a car that crossed in the middle of the track and no space to go, it's going to be absolutely a disaster.
Oh, indeed.
But that's how it goes. And now everybody is like closer together. And yeah, 25 laps too early to dice into a pit stop. I don't think that anybody did that.
No, probably not. The one unfortunate thing for Ray and David here is that they both got caught behind the safety car, so they will have quite a handful to stay on the lead lap.
Well, yes and no, because if you look at the gap, there is 17 seconds, which is basically the distance behind the safety car at this pace. Remember, they are going now at about 60 miles per hour. This is the distance that is between the safety car and the back of the race, where they are now. So I think they actually benefited from this situation, because before that, with full green, the pits doing the repairs, while the head of the race was going in 40 seconds lap away from them. So I think they still benefited. Let's have a look at what happens here, because remember, they also will be on fresh tires. So pit car is out, and we are on green again.
Yep, and David immediately challenging Ray, trying to get away from the leaders. Anders, in the meantime, trying to look for a wide line and maybe a bit of a cutback on Niklas, but not getting it to work. Also happy will be Jonatan, having survived that. He's now right up behind the two leaders.
It's a curious situation because David Watman started immediately behind the safety car, but he's actually nearly a full lap behind. He was about to be lapped, so he wanted a head start probably to see if he can dash, if he can do a sprint towards the end of this stint and like stay ahead in the lap, but I don't think that will be possible. And the fight to watch here is, look at Nicolas Kirsten and Anders Nilsson. They are wasting no time.
No, indeed. There they go.
And this is now a complicated situation for Ray Riddle because Anders Nilsson is making his way through. There comes Jonatan. Okay.
Nicely done.
Next up is Thiago Canola. Taking big risks there.
Quite so, and caught in that group as well is Brian Yannick, running 12th at the moment, and clearly also having quite a quick car.
Yeah, and I think everybody was like, when this yellow flag happened, everybody realized that yellow flags, full course cautions, can happen in this race when there is a big enough accident. So all the guys that had been like left behind after an accident, a pit stop that they had to do, that they were forced to do, and that, they suddenly started thinking, oh my god, I just caught up thanks to this. And the thing is, I had a strategy that was probably a bit more conservative, like trying to make it into the points, but what if we get another yellow flag? It's like it suddenly becomes worth it to go for it.
Quite so. Look at that. What is that? 4 or 5 laps, and they're already catching a car to lap in the form of was that David Wattman, I think. Oh no, that is David, who passed and is still running ahead, of course, trying to stay on that lead lap. But look at this, Jules
How
Bouchard.
slow is Brad Riddle going?
Definitely looks like a cork in a bottle.
Yeah, I don't know if it's damage or what's the problem, but Brad Riddle is going really slow. I mean, the car must have some kind of damage because it's very unlike of him to go that slow. He's a very good driver and the car is good, and it nearly got there. Dave Miller, and look at Grant Riddle, they're 3 wide there. Little Al just basically lifted off and said, okay guys, make it through, because I don't want to know any of that in case we got another big accident here.
Quite so, and this is also one of the issues with this track when it comes to lappings. You might be a lot quicker, but you need to time it perfectly, because apart from this like start finish last turn up to turn 2, there aren't really a lot of room.
Oh, I think you nailed it in your appreciation, because timing is probably the best word here. You need to like look forward, see what's coming up, and time your pace and everything so that you make it look like effortless when it actually wasn't. It was the work of many turns behind previously, and a lot of vision of what's going to happen. So Little Al still hasn't been able to make it through Ray Riddle. That's not good for him, because he was trying to catch up with Jules Bouchard, who is in 4th with the Penske. It's now 4 seconds separating them. And Jason White signaling pits, which feels a bit early for me.
Maybe some damage
See,
then.
because I can see many cars signaling pits. That must be something that the pit crews are getting nervous, probably.
Hmm. Yeah, that's quite likely. It's been very hectic these first 33
Actually,
laps
as we said, we
completed. So
we were expecting 50 lap stints, so that the three tanks are used like that. But with these laps that have been under caution, they have been able to save fuel, which means either they are going to go higher with the boost, which I'm not sure will happen because of the temperatures that we have talked about previously, or they are going to be putting a bit less fuel in the last stint. And there goes Nilsson, trying to put some pressure on Kirsten.
indeed, fastest lap of the race so far, and running right in the slipstream of the True Sports. What have I written there?
Miller, meanwhile, is right behind Buhar and looking to pass forward, but he's actually 4 laps behind. So this is the situation that happens here when you have such a short track. The problem that you get is that if you're in the pits even for like 20 seconds, you are losing nearly a full lap, depending on where you were. So if you're doing repairs, you can easily be all of a sudden 2 laps behind,
Indeed. Oh, some smoke
even if
over
you're
here.
so much quicker. And it
Indeed.
becomes confusing.
Yeah, definitely. So
Does Simon Watman make you room?
right, so and up at the front, the two Lolas are running together, very close together still. And do you think this is a situation where Anders may have a better handle on the Lola, considering the Lola generally has a bit more understeer in the chassis compared to the Marches, but these two are obviously running the same chassis, but you think it's driver differences or setup differences that means Sanders is a little bit quicker now towards the end of the stint?
It's very hard to tell actually, because as I've said, the Lola is not certainly the best chassis to manage around these street courses. So it is very obvious that driver ability and setup work and all that is paying off in the case of the Lolas that are there at the top, and who can question the ability of Kirsten, Nilsson, Grant Ridal, and the like. So I think in the road courses they are putting the Lolas ahead of where they should be. But then again, I can tell you something. I can like look at things. I can see many things because I've been driving myself. But when you're a driver of the caliber of Anders Nilsson, for example, in this situation right now where he's behind Kirsten, I think that I can't read his mind as to what he's like trying to go to do towards the end of the race. If it's going to be aggressive, wait for the error, depend on the circumstances. I can only for sure tell that he has done his homework. There are a lot of hours put there into making this Lola chassis handle that well. That's the only thing that I can tell for sure.
Oh, and look at this, he has a really good chance now of maybe making a move. Oh, and Kirsten, understandably, taking the defensive line. Not a full defensive line, but just moving over slightly to effectively say, I'm not going to give you the inside here, you better think twice here, please.
Yeah, they are sensing each other, because this is that situation when you are signaling to the other driver, look, I'm as quick, if not quicker as you. I can go by if you give me the opportunity, but I'm not going to do anything stupid because I'm gunning for the championship. So just to let you know that I'm here, that you cannot make any error. And that's his way of putting the pressure on the other driver. But yeah, it's like I'm showing my teeth, and towards the end of the race, I'm going to bite.
Quite so, and here comes a lapping again in the form of Simon Wattmann. He very neatly and sportingly moves out of the way there, running the 86C Penske. Nilsson again right up behind the wing of Kirsten going down into turn 2. And I wonder, with what you said there about being aggressive towards the end, what do you think of the prospects of possibly doing right side tires only for the stops? Is that something you think everyone will try, or is it more of a last-ditch effort
It's
to maybe...
certainly a possibility. It's certainly a possibility, and it will completely depend on how the drivers have felt about it. I know for sure that whatever we see that Anders Nilsson and Kirsten are going to do in the pit stop, because of the hours that they put into the preparation, is going to be the best option. So whatever the timing, the duration of the pit stop for these guys is going to tell us what the best strategy is.
It will be interesting to watch in some 9, maybe 15 laps, depending on how long they decide to stretch the first stint on.
Yeah, I believe 9 to 10 laps is probably when we are going to see them pit. And in the case of Kirsten, I mean, we're in lap 43, and for sure, doing the prospect of doing 150 laps with Anders being there right behind him is going to be anything but comfortable. And that's the whole point of what Anders is doing.
Indeed, he'll just need to be careful not to put himself in a position where he may make a mistake of his own. Because while he puts pressure on Kirsten, he obviously also runs in the dirty air behind him, so it helps him down the straights, but as soon as they enter this section, for example, quite high speed left-hander, it could spell disaster if he overdoes it.
I'm going to have a look at the lap times, because there is John Tim in third right now. And for example, his previous lap, last lap, was 41.6. In the case of Anders Nilsson, the previous lap was 40.8, which means that he's going and quite sizable amount quicker. It's very interesting.
I wonder if for John it's a case of having started further back and having been forced to race past a few guys, maybe he's used up his tires just a little bit more than the leading duo.
That could have been the case before, but right now he has been in clean air for a lot of the time. Although for sure, if his tires are more worn from the effort of the beginning of the stint, that could make a difference here.
A wheel, someone has been off. Simon Wattmann, I think, looks to be a retiree.
Yep. Suspension. Yeah. He has basically lost the wheel there. So once we get the pit stops for everyone, I think we will have a much clearer picture of what's going to happen.
Indeed, and unfortunately Simon's crash
is... It's been quite eventful, and we are only 1/3 into the race.
Indeed. Simon's crash was, by the looks of things, trying to be cautious and leaving room for, I'm fairly sure that was Richard Wilkes, and he overdid it. That would have been
no, that must
Canola.
be Thiago Canola, who is in Wilkes' former car. Wilkes has unfortunately crashed out of the race.
Yes, he did. He was involved in that multi-car pileup consisting of Chacon, Marazzi, and Simon earlier. So one of those things. But and Yannick has retired as well just a moment ago. Whatever happened to Brian then?
Accident.
Ooh, looks like quite a big one. Let's see, running in behind Grant, going through the final turn. Ooh, runs just a bit too wide. Hits the wall quite hard and then spins and takes both left side tires off, and very sportingly does his best to try and get off most of the racing line, and then unfortunately has to retire. But for his efforts, he will score 1 point towards the championship. Oh, and looks
So
like
there's
Dave
Miller
Miller
now
has
into the
some
pits.
damage.
Yeah. Oh, Nilsson. Nilsson was just about trying. He was showing there to Kirsten that he wants to get by. I think that Nilsson at this point is very sure that he can do better, that he can go quicker than Kirsten, and he doesn't want to dice it in the pit stops. He wants to make it through if possible before that. We will see how that pans out.
Could very well be the case. 49 laps in the books. We should be starting to see pit stops. Ooh, bad timing for Anders. Dave coming out of the pits and effectively splitting Kirsten and Nilsson going through turn 2. As Dave was
Meanwhile,
trying to
there
stay
is
out of the
Grant
way.
Ridal. Very, very interesting situation here between Thiago Canola and Grant Ridal, two drivers of the highest caliber. They're fighting it out for 7th position. And Grant is on fresher tires, but probably on a bigger fuel load. There he goes. And he overtakes Thiago.
Wow.
Yeah, but Thiago is for sure very much aware of the different situation between both of them, because Grant had to pit due to damage earlier. And even if he has overtaken Thiago, he's going to have to cut his stint short due to the different fuel load.
Very much so. But that being said, yeah, Canola definitely coming out to the final turn looks to be struggling a little bit with the tires right now. Oh, and I think Anders may have pitted. He has, as has Ray Riddle. So Anders pitted right on the money, lap 50. Let's see what Niklas decides to do. He's gone at least one more lap.
Yeah, Kirsten just overtook 5th position, which is Little Al. And he's right now behind Jules Buchard, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to overtake him before the start-finish line, because he's going into the pits after this combination here.
No, he continues.
No, he goes for another lap. That's really amazing, quite impressive. And I don't think it's the best strategy, because look what happened here. He was boxed behind Jason White trying to make room there, and it was going to happen, because with 2 cars in front and everybody trying to make room, this wasn't going to play out well.
No, indeed, and he's still being held up now behind Jules Buchard.
Yeah. Yeah, here's where the Penske situation shows up. The Chevy engine in the Penske is allowing Buchard to stay there in front in the main straight. And he probably had to lift off even to make room for Kirsten. Of course, Buchard can go around like lifting so happily, because Little Al is on his toes, and they are fighting for the 4th position.
Oh, indeed.
But still, it makes me very... it's very surprising that Anderson had to go into the pits so quickly when Kirsten is able to go so many laps more. That's quite interesting.
It might be a case.
Maybe Anders saw that he wasn't able to overtake so easily on the track and tried to undercut Kirsten, knowing that they were coming into heavier traffic, which, as we have seen, has been the case for Kirsten.
Quite so. It could be the case, or it could be a case of different philosophies for what strategy to go with. Where Anders...
Okay, so he's going into the pits now. He's signaling pits, and I'm sure that he's going into the pits right now.
It could be as well, maybe, that Anders decided to simply split the strategy in the stints in equal 50 laps sections, like you said earlier, and maybe take on a little bit less fuel.
If it was another driver, we could be arguing about that, but in the case of Anders, I'm sure that there is a reason behind it. And let's follow Kirsten, who is in the pits, and see how long the pit stop takes. And then we will know if he's changing. I think that he's changing both tires.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, I think. Look at that. I mean, the car was raised from both sides.
So let's see.
That's a long
seconds.
pit stop. Anders is now going into the slow section. Kirsten is coming out.
Wow.
Anders still in there. No. That didn't seem to pay off for Anders at all. I mean, at all.
Big difference.
Because Kirsten is out of the pits now.
That definitely paid off for Kirsten, for whatever reason. And even more interestingly, to some extent, Jonatan is still out there. Now he pits though. Running all the way up to
lap they haven't pit either.
End of lap 54.
So Buchard signaling pits now. And
he continues though.
Yeah, he continues. There goes Little Al also. Oh. Big traffic jam there in the chicane behind Jason White. There's Dave Miller, Grant Ridal, everybody trying to go by.
Grant obviously in a bit of a hurry, trying to unlap himself, and now, well, has unlapped himself, and now will be looking to try and stay on the lead lap. And I'd imagine he'll be hoping for another safety car.
Let's see if Buchard goes this time in. Yeah, there he goes. I mean, he couldn't hold it for much longer.
Yeah,
he's already in the pits.
Yeah, I'd imagine he'll be quite happy to be off those tires.
Little Al is still on the track, which is quite amazing. 58 laps. Unless... No, he's signaling pits now. Okay, I didn't miss that. So let's see if that paid off for him. Staying out, same as Kirsten. Right? No, another lap. That's another lap.
That almost looked like he was sort of set on, I'm going, and then he realized, no, I have enough on one more lap.
Another one. Yeah, and why wouldn't you? I mean, if you got cleaner in front of you, and the car is still behaving well, the tires are holding, it makes sense. Look at Nilsson and Kirsten. I mean, Nilsson has been able to catch up despite the deficit of what he lost in the pit stop, and there he is putting some pressure on Kirsten again. So I think, it's obvious that Nilsson is quicker on the track. It's just that Kirsten is quicker in the pit stops and able, of course, to close the gaps for the overtaking.
Quite so, and the big gap, I think, may have been the fact that what looked like a big gap then was also Niklas had to run on cold tires for a lap or two, and that may have held him back a little bit, and that's part of the reason why Anders caught up as much as he has done.
We're in the pits now. Let's see when he comes out how far behind. Okay, he's coming out now. There comes Buhard, yeah, indeed. So it's basically still very much the same gap or more.
I reckon by the time Little Al has made it through some of these scarier turns on cold tires, probably maybe 8 or 9 seconds, the gap in the end, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and that cold tires really show in these cars because I mean, it's very dangerous to drive them on cold tires. They take a full lap or so to heat up.
Yeah, I'd at the nearest to describe it in terms of feel like you're driving on soap. If you ever been on like a soap slide or similar and try to surf on that on your feet, that is roughly what it feels like trying to navigate these cars on cold tires.
Yeah. So Thiago Canola now in the pits. He had been up to fifth. Now Buhard and Ikino will go by. And Gran Ridal is in fourth, although he's in a very different strategy due to his early pit stop. Well, it's interesting that Canola is there still in the pits. Buhard and Ikino haven't been yet by. Now goes Buhard. And let's see, where's Little Al? There he goes. And that means that Canola is going to come out not that much behind him. Oh, that's a long pit stop for Canola.
Ooh, that looks like maybe some damage repairs.
Yeah, for sure, because this is really long. And good luck for Little Al, because otherwise he would have a very tough competitor right behind him.
That's unfortunate for Thiago, but oh, he's actually retired even as Thiago.
Oh,
yikes! Yeah. That's really unfortunate.
So what we will have to be looking towards the end of the race is what happens with Grant, because of the staggered strategy when compared with other drivers. He's now in fourth, and he's going very quick. He just set a quick lap of 40.8, although he had been able to do 40.6.
I wonder, could it be that with that early pit stop, he's more or less partly hoping for a safety car, but also maybe having seen, okay, even if I retire, I'll score some points. Could it be that he's effectively throwing caution to the wind in terms of engine and running the engine right up and maybe even over the limit at times to try and get as much speed as he is getting out of that car?
Yes, because in the case of Grant, he is a driver that is very much proficient on road courses, and even if he can go quick everywhere, the fact is that he is much more comfortable on road courses. So in a championship like this, when you have a mix of ovals, road courses and street courses, I think that for Grant it is very important to score there in the tracks where he feels he can be more competitive. So probably at this point he's getting for the strategy of caution to the wind. Let's see what I can do and the best points I can collect here.
It's definitely interesting to see, and he's rapidly closing in on Jonatan as well. But let's have a little look. We have obviously the battle for the lead. Kirsten still in the lead after the first round of pit stops. Anders Nilsson second, only half a second or so behind at the moment. Jonatan in third, running about 18.5 seconds behind the leader. With Grant Ridal on a different strategy now, but running fourth, only 4 seconds now behind Jonatan, and like Alberto said, probably running to effectively see where he can get to, hopefully without breaking the car. Jules Buchard doing a stellar job in that Penske PC16, hauling that thing up to 5th at the moment. Alberto Quino, Little Al, about 10 seconds now behind Buchard, trying to do his best for Patrick Racing. David Wattman running in 7th, only 2.5 seconds behind Little Al, so that might be a battle coming in the near future. Further lap behind is Ray Riddall running in 8th. Dave Miller, after his earlier repairs, running in 9th, 2 laps adrift from Ray, and currently last car running in the race, but still holding on, is Jason White in the Newman Haas Racing entry. And I'd imagine Jason, being more proficient on oval courses, is probably more or less now just going, yes, I have points. I'll try to last as long as I can. Please, give me some more. Or do you think there's a different mindset there?
It's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell at this point.
Oh no! Dave Miller crashes! Yikes! Just caught that behind Jason White there. Dave Miller came up right behind Jason coming through turn 2. And Dave running a bit faster around outside, out on the marbles, understeer in the dirty air and marbles, and out into that deadly tire stack I mentioned as we rode on board for a lap at the start of the broadcast. That's really unfortunate for Dave. That is again just one of those dangers around this track. One little error and it can all go adrift for you.
Yep, high attrition, as we have already said.
And look at this, Grant now only a second behind Jon Tim.
Yeah, I'm sure Jon Tim is not really happy about, especially about the way that Grant has been closing up, or rather the speed.
Quite so. But
in any case, like I said, Grant is on a different strategy to everybody due to the early pit stop. So, I mean, he's quick, but he has less fuel.
Indeed. But being that much quicker is mightily impressive, no matter how you look at it. I mean, gaining
yes.
what was 4 seconds in some 4 laps is like something taken out of a Hollywood movie or something.
Yeah, the ones where suddenly a driver realizes, oh, let's press the throttle pedal harder. Why didn't I think of that before?
Quite. For me, that reference will... Oh, here comes Grant. Really fast down the straight. And easily goes by Jon. I wonder if Jon is looking at this race and feeling like, okay, I can't really realistically keep up with Niklas and Anders up front. And, I mean, I'm more or less set to finish 3rd as long as I finish. Could he have just dialed it back a little bit and just looking to finish in 3rd and continue up near the front, or even in the lead of the championship even after the race?
I think so, but also probably he is aware that Grant is on a different strategy and with a lower load of fuel at this point. So there was really no utility for him in trying to resist here. And the speed differential is, I think it's becoming quite obvious that there is a fuel load difference and that Grant is going so much quicker because he's going to have to stop quicker. So...
And in terms of just pressing the pedal harder, like you mentioned earlier, my reference for that, before I got distracted by Grant passing Jon there, my reference for that will always be in English, Pinchcliffe Grand Prix. a Norwegian stop-motion film using dolls featuring racing, and the titular character builds a race car, goes racing with it, and towards the end of the race he effectively goes, okay, I'm going for it, and presses the pedal, goes through the floor, and in the front end some metal covers goes down over the headlights just to protect them. It's like, yeah, now we're going for it. Great movie if anyone watching would like to check it out after the race.
Here's an interesting situation with David Wildman trying to overtake Little Al. And I mean, this is for position, but not really for position. I think that David is one lap down, actually. I mean, they are 7th and 8th. It's 6th and 7th, but I think that it's a matter of being a whole lap down.
No, it looks like it's the live timing says it is half a second between them, so it is for actual position.
Okay. Because it said, oh, okay, well, it's, I mean, the HUD says +1 lap, but maybe that's just to the leaders.
Yes, I think that's the case.
Right, so let's see.
And in the meantime, Little Al has been catching Bouchard, I should say. Some 4 seconds in the previous, let's call it 15 laps or so.
Yeah, both David Wildman and Little Al are catching up with Bouchard.
And here comes David.
David. Yeah.
Nice run coming out of turn 2, up the inside. Nice regulation pass, and Little Al realizing not much doing there. I'll try to catch on to his rear wing now and catch Bouchard even quicker.
And indeed, the HUD shows now that Little Al is 7th and David Wildman is 6th. So I believe that David Wildman is a bit in the same situation as Grant Riddle. There was an early pit stop, and he's on less fuel and tires, and he still has to pit. So we will see how this pans out towards the end of the race, because with that early pit stop, they are going for 1 pit stop more. I don't think they are able to do it with only 1. So this could be shifting very quickly towards the end of the race, which is going to make it interesting for all of us, of course.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. And I mean, speaking of pit stops, the fact that as we can see as they round the final turn, the pit lane is on a curve. How big of a struggle is that for the drivers, as Anders has another look up the inside into turn 2? How big of a struggle do you reckon that is for the drivers, trying to round that coming into the pits and getting away from there after the pit stops?
I think that the biggest struggle for the drivers, and if you look at the leaders, they are coming up that section now behind Little Al. They are going to put a lap down, but I think that the biggest struggle here is that when you come out of this turn, you are actually like being thrown against the natural flow or way into the pits. And that's what really is upsetting for the driver, because you tend to naturally be opening up the throttle and going out of the turn, and it's basically kicking you out of the trajectory that leads you into the pits. So that's what I think is the biggest struggle, more than setup or anything, is the nature of the track.
Oh, and I notice now Jason White unfortunately has retired as well. And Grant into the pits now for his second stop. So he drops to 4th. Let's see if he looks like he will drop to... Oh no, he actually has a lap on both Bouchard and Wattmann, so he will rejoin the race in 4th. And presumably with a relatively quick stop to finish off his third stop later in the race. Oh, but look at those cold tires. So 24 seconds behind. Ooh. Make that probably closer to 30 by the time the tires are up to temperature for Grant. But still, that is well catchable for him, considering the pace he showed earlier. That being said, it looks like the battle really now is on for the lead and is putting Niklas under a whole heap of pressure. And look at that,
Yeah,
look, showing himself in the mirror again.
Yeah, and remember David Wandman some laps ago overtook Little Al? Well, now he's on Buchard's toes.
Yes,
I mean,
indeed.
the pace that he had was obviously leading him to be here. And there he goes. I mean, he's nearly
Wowee! That is so close to those tires. Yikes.
It's a big speed differential, so pit strategy, or maybe also high boost without any regard to the engine safety, just thinking if it holds, it holds. I don't know. But there's for sure a big speed differential.
Indeed, and up behind them now comes the leaders as well. But that being said, it is one of those situations, as is always the case on these tracks. Short laps and faster drivers. Again. Here comes David indeed.
On the outside.
Yep, but Jules holds on for now. Nicely defended. And here comes the leaders.
Yes.
And this will be tricky for the leaders. Sure, the guys is a lap down already, but they won't be wanting to yield too easily. Ooh, and Niklas held up. Anders has a chance here. Surely Anders has a chance. No, okay, he decides against it, looking for a good run coming out though.
And this is very complicated for the leaders, especially for Anders, because he needs to make it through so as not to let a gap open, and at the same time be there to be able to capitalize on any opportunity of Kirsten having to lift off.
Indeed, and likewise Buchard in trouble there, because he needed to let the leaders by without losing the position to David, which he did very, very well indeed, but that is also a very difficult prospect. And here comes David looking up the inside. Buchard gives him the room. And David is passed for now, but obviously, like you say, on a different pit stop strategy.
And David is signaling pits now. I'm not sure what this is about. Maybe he's going into the pits. Nope, not this lap. But I think that this is quite telling, because we are on lap 85 for them. So, I mean, they are not making it to lap 100, and that's due to the fuel use. So early, well, full use. I mean, the early pit stop due to repairs.
Very much so.
Well, let's see, because for all those who are on the natural strategy, the next pit stop is going to be about lap 102, 103, something like that. So still ways to go.
Indeed.
Now there's Kirsten, there's the leaders overtaking Rai Ridal, who has been, and we have already mentioned it tonight many times, he's been very weirdly slow. He's a quick driver, and the equipment is for sure good enough, as the top 3 cars are proving. So I don't know, maybe he got damaged in one of the situations there at the beginning of the race.
Could very well be
the case. Grant is now 4th, and John Tim is 3rd.
Yep, and 23, 22, 23 seconds behind. So he has gained, at a guess, some 4 to 5 seconds since his pit stop. So Grant really going hell for leather here, trying to get everything he can out of this race.
Yeah, he just overtook Little Al, although not for position. Put a lap on him. And he's going on. But like I said, due to the early pit stops of the cars and then the caution period, it's becoming quite confusing. So I think that once all cars have done the final stop, the picture will be much clearer.
I'd say the most clear picture we can have, though, is the fact that no matter what's happening mean behind, Niklas and Anders are the leading duo and still trying to make each other make tiny errors to give them whatever tiny breathing room they can.
Yes, Kirsten and Nilsson, same as Buchard and Little Al, they are all on the normal, so to speak, strategy. They haven't been involved in accidents, although I saw in the chat that Brian Janik mentioned that Little Al clipped his car slightly when he was stationed there after his crash. So I don't know if Little Al has a bit of a damage, but whatever the case, he's still in the original strategy. The other ones, Grant Ridal, David Watman, hard to tell. Ryan Ridal, he seems to be driving a crippled car. He's going for the points because he's 8th right now, and if there are more retirements, he could for sure gain more positions. So we're going to see towards the end of the race. But like I said, it's interesting because both Grant and David Watman, 4th and 5th, might actually all of a sudden towards the end of the race drop like stones with an additional pit stop. I think that's what we can expect, but we will see.
Indeed, and there goes Ray letting both Buchard and his son Grant past.
It's quite a steady distance between Buchard and Little Al at around 5 seconds. So I don't know, maybe there's indeed some damage in Little Al's car. We have to look at the lap times. Because at some points he had been catching up with Buchard, and at others he wasn't. No, he's actually on very good lap times. I mean, it's very regular, similar to the best lap times of his stint. So I guess it's Buchard who is going much quicker.
Yeah, probably. We did see very early on in the first stint that Buchard had a good pace, then dropped off a little bit. Here we might have trying to find the English expression for it, but let's say sandbagged a little bit of pace towards the end of the stint and tried to put a little bit of gap between himself and Little Al at this point in the stint, just before the pit stops.
Let me correct that, because I actually had a look at the charts, the lap times of Buchard, and what seems to happen here is that Little Al is indeed scoring laps that are quicker, like 41s, high 41s, whereas Buchard hasn't been able in the whole race to score anything better than 42s. And that's been the case in the last laps, but he has been more regular. That's what made the difference.
Ah, of course.
So Little Al has been slower at the beginning of the stints, and maybe at some points due to traffic, but towards the end of the stints he closes up. And 0.8 of a second now between Kirsten and Nilsson. That's not really a huge gap, and as you can see, they are close together on the track, but I think that it reflects that Nilsson is just like I'm not saying giving up, but he's a bit maybe discouraged at this point of being able to overtake on the track, and he's probably at this point planning how to do the quickest pit stop possible and try to make it on the pits. Because there's one thing for sure: whichever of these two drivers is in front in this very tight track, with the skills that they have, is probably able to keep that position and block enough and make it so that the other isn't able to overtake.
Well, I did notice Anders ran deep in the 5-6 chicane and lost a bit of time. He's now right up behind Niklas again. But speaking of just planning for a quick pit stop, like you've driven these cars at Phoenix, which is like we mentioned earlier, quite a similar kind of hectic lap. How really do you plan and get the pit stops ready? Because in sim racing you need to instruct the pit lane by doing a little bit of handiwork on the side. How do you do that without crashing into all of these concrete walls?
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
The drivers that have a better steering wheel and buttons and all that, they are for sure able to manage this better in any case. But this is one of those things where sim racing is different than real life, because in real life it's not just that your engineers are very much aware of your needs when it comes to the fuel and all that, but you basically just hit the radio button and tell them what you want for the next pit stop. In the case of sim racing, it's much more complicated because you have to adjust the hood, you have to do the calculations by yourself mentally, and all that while driving at high speed. So you mentioned Phoenix earlier. I can tell you in Phoenix it was absolute hell. Absolute. Because it's so hard to plan, to keep it like mentally calculating things and that, and at the same time try to fiddle with the HUD. And I had a shunder, I had problems because I'm using a very wide screen. And the problem is that the HUD lays so much to the right of it that I have to veer completely my view from it, from what I'm doing in the driving. So I don't know. I mean, it will vary a lot depending on the equipment for these guys, but for sure it's something complicated.
And as that is very interesting, and Anders has now decided to pit right on the money again for a evenly split race run. So it looks like, he looked far wider on that camera shot than he was, but cold tires again just playing havoc with the drivers. But that looked like another 4 tire stop, so will be interesting to see what he can do now to try and go as quick as he can on cold tires, and what Niklas decides to do, because Niklas has gone at least one more lap here. But will he decide to do even more laps like he did earlier?
Yeah, he seemed to be able to. And I was talking some laps before about the fact of Little Al being quicker towards the end of the stint. Well, look at the gap between Buchard and him right now.
Down to just over a second, as Niklas does the fastest lap of the race right here, a 40.1. That is blisteringly fast.
Yeah, it's a combination of the open track for him, thanks to the retirements, and also being towards the end of the stint, where the car is so much lighter. Also, given the lap that we are in, he seems to be very confident on fuel use, so knowing that he has to pit now and that Nilsson has been already in the pits, he wants to make the difference on the track. He's cranking up the boost as much as he dares without overheating the engine too much, and he's trying to put to the last tenth of a second there, so that when he comes out of the pits, he's able to still keep Anders behind him.
Indeed, and he's continued for another few laps. Let's then keep an eye on this Buchard and Little Al situation for another couple of laps and wait for Niklas to pit.
Yeah, although it's going to take some more laps maybe, because I think he pitted lap 53 or 50, no, 55 or 56, something like that. So it could even take more laps now. Although, of course, we haven't had any more yellow flag periods, so it's not going to be as long a stint as it was before. But
Buchard
yeah,
very
I think
wide.
as you were asking me before about doing the calculations and preparing your pit stop, this is probably now the case for Kirsten, because he must be doing mental calculations about how much fuel he has to put for the last stint. Because in the previous ones, you didn't really care, because well, it was a matter of staying out more laps and using it, and that's it. But now it's like putting 4 pounds, 4 kilograms more of fuel there. It can make a difference when you have a driver like Anders right behind you, when you are split by so small of a gap. So Kirsten must really be very fine when calculating and putting exactly the only minimum amount of fuel that he needs.
It's very impressive how the drivers are managing that as well as they do. And it's interesting to see as well that despite running very wide at turn 3 last lap, Buchard has been able to stave off the time loss, or however you want to describe it, to Little Al, and keeping the distance at roughly a second and a bit.
Yeah, I think that Little Al is probably at this point trying to catch up with him, be close enough, and then when the last pit stop comes, he will also be putting as little fuel as he can and go for it in the last stint. That's when the situation is going to be unfolded completely. I can see also that Buchard is looking in several turns, so he's feeling the pressure.
Also interesting to note that Jonatan has now been lapped by the leader, and only 2 cars on the lead lap here. Which is, I'd say, more of a testament to the pace of the leading 2 than anything else. And look at that. Kirsten running right up behind Anders Nilsson now. And Jonatan heads into the pits. So that should signal that as long as Niklas doesn't make a mistake in calculating anything for the pit stops, he should be able to come out ahead of Anders this time around as well. And here he comes.
Okay, yeah. Kirsten into the pits. Yeah.
Nice and steady into this pit stall. Right side tires.
Although remember, it's probable that Kirsten the previous time, because of the gap that he had with Nilsson, only changed 2 tires. I don't know, but if that was the case, he's forced now to change 4. So we'll
looks
see
like he's
how
changing
that
force.
No, it was a quick pit stop.
Yep, looked like he changed 4 tires, just like Anders did earlier.
Oh, and Anders there, boxed in traffic. That's very unfortunate for him.
Ooh, he has lost a lot of time to Niklas this time around. Will probably be some 6 to 8 seconds behind, maybe more, depending on how much he gets held up by this slower traffic here.
Yeah. So I guess it's the luck of the champions, as they say.
Indeed. And one thing to note as well is that if Niklas wins this race, the same driver-car combination will have won this race as who won in the real-life counterpart. Because Bobby Rahal, driving this True Sports Lola T87, won the race back in 1987.
Okay, and here comes Little Al into the pits. I think he was like realizing that there was nothing else to gain. I think they're stuck in traffic, and that Buchard is Yeah, Buhart is indeed suffering behind John Tim, so this might be a good move for Little Al if indeed Buhart is losing time behind John. Let's see what happens. Look at that. I mean, the car is already squared to be able to make it as quick as possible. There he goes. Very neat, very clean.
Yep, doing everything he can to get as much speed out of it as he can, but there comes Niklas, so that is one issue, and another issue, of course, the cold tires. A lot of steering angle, but gets around turn 2 all right.
And David Watman, I think he had stopped earlier, I'm not sure. But he's now in 6th in front of Little Al, but I'm not sure if he will actually need to pit again. So that's something that we will have to be watching. Same for Grant, although in this case, with the speed that he has been able to pull, even if he has to pit, probably he will still keep that 3rd position. Well, not so sure in the case of John Tim, but for sure not against Buhart.
Indeed. Grant pitted, if I'm not mistaken, on lap 87 or 88 last time, so if he makes it all the way to the finish with this pace, that is mightily impressive. But like you say, more likely it's probably a quick stop of probably just a splash towards the end.
So David Watman actually pit on lap 103. So he should be able to make it towards the end of the race with this, which is interesting. In the case of Grant, his stop was lap 80. Lap 80. I think it was, yes, lap 80.
As early as lap 80, wow.
Yeah. So still some laps for him to go, but another pit stop must be made.
That is then another bit of a mental calculation for him to do, because obviously limited to a certain amount of fuel. How much fuel do I put in the car without using too much?
Yes. We are still now waiting for Buhart to come in, which is the other one that can make a shift in their positions. Because I can see in Buhart's score that he pit on lap 57 and he hasn't pit ever since. Now that's weird.
So he should be any lap soon then, 57. That would then make it lap 114 for him. He's just completed lap 113, so should be any lap now. And up at the front, it's 8 seconds the gap between Kirsten and Nielsen. And obviously, for the moment at least, running 3rd and most likely to continue in 3rd after his 3rd pit stop this race is Grant Riddall.
Buhart in the pits now. Okay.
So right on the money for 57 laps a stint. Ooh, bit early on slowing down there, but gets into his pit stall. So there goes David past. Let's see about Little Al.
Yeah, he's in the slow section now, coming to the last chicane.
There goes Buhart
and
out to the pits.
Buhart is coming out, but Little Al, I think he will have the run due to the cold tires of Buhart. Let's see. Little Al is coming now very quick, but let's see what Buhart can do to fend him off. There through the first turn, waving and suffering a lot. And Little Al coming now with a presumably lighter car.
I'd
And
imagine...
he was able to stay in front, but let's see.
I'd imagine Little Al's biggest opportunity will be into turn 2 this next lap, because Bouchard will still struggle, I'd imagine, a little bit through the final turn here, so Little Al needs to look for a really good run coming through here.
Yeah, look at Bouchard weaving there. I mean, oh my goodness, that's...
That is one unhappy Penske. Oh, look at
Yep,
this.
it's...
Trying round outside, surely not. Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
he
what
did
a
it.
pass!
Impressive one, because Bouchard was there trying to...
Oh, it's not done yet though. Side by side through 3, and then through 4. Little Al finally secures it coming out of turn 4. Wow,
Yeah,
what a pass.
blue flag for both of them, because Jonatan is coming from behind. Bouchard lets him by, and I think that seals it for him, unfortunately. Let's see what happens now when Jonatan comes up to Little Al. But very sporting from Bouchard, even if being there in the middle of his own fight and with an opportunity to still catch up, to let Jonatan like that.
Indeed.
Oh, Grant in the pits. Okay, this is the other one we were waiting for. So let's see what happens between Tim and him. Tim was there. Yeah, he's in the back section now. So Grant is coming
leaving,
out
so...
now. Yeah. So that's all she wrote, I'm afraid. I don't think that Grant's podium is now in danger. Oh, and look at that. I mean, Nilsson is right now putting a lap on Grant, which means he can be more liberal with the fuel use, and that will only secure his position even more.
Indeed, but the thing to note there was how squirrely Grant's Rainer Racing entry got coming out of turn 2 there on the cold tires. That Lola definitely not enjoying the cold tires. But that being said, top 3 now, all Lolas. With Jonatan being the first march in the race.
Yeah, it's clearly a matter of driver ability and preparation, because I don't think that in this track the Lola is really that much superior to the March.
Well, I suppose it depends, because looking at the top 5 in the 87 race, Bobby Rahal won driving that Lola, and Mario Andretti finished second, also in a Lola. So top 2 were Lolas, and then 3rd, 4th and 5th were all in March 87s.
Yeah, although you just mentioned two Lolas that were a bit of very special cars. I mean, the True Sport car for Rahal and the one for Mario, who obviously was the top driver, or one of the top drivers, with the Chevy engine. Little Al now boxed behind Ray Vidal. This is a bit of a...
Oh no, Niklas Kirsten has crashed! Niklas Kirsten has crashed!
Oy.
What in the world? Coming through into turn 3, trying to go... Oh, dearie me! Whatever happened there? That... Looking to go through turn 4, and the car just absolutely snapped on him.
Well, he lost it on his own under acceleration, so bit of a shame, but that's how it goes.
Wow, I did not expect that. Wowee. So that's Niklas out. Anders now in the lead. If he finishes, that will be his second win in a row. And that will bring him closer yet in the championship hunt.
Ay. There goes Little Al, just left John Tim by. He lost momentum, and now there's Buchard on his toes.
Yikes, that got close at the pit exit. Oh, and Little Al all wide and crossed up on the marbles. Here comes Buchard with a better run through turn 2. Let's see what he can do going up the inside, going for turn 3. Side by side in the braking zone, Buchard up the inside, and he secures 6th position for now. Wow, that's an opportunistic move.
Once they overtake where Kirsten crashed. Yeah, that's unfortunate because Little was just trying to play it cleanly with John Tim, and then Buchard just seized the opportunity.
That is that is IndyCar racing at its finest, must say. Wow, that is very opportunistic and very well put together by Jules.
And I think if there is anyone surprised at this point in the race, that must be Grant Ridal. Because having that damage and having to pit earlier and finding himself now in 2nd position, it's like, wow, I can't believe this.
One of those manna from heavens situations for him.
And I think it shows the importance of holding on there, of not retiring quickly, of not quitting. It's like, oh yeah, man, I got a bad situation there at the beginning. It's like, oh, bad luck, I'm going to quit in the first pit stop and that. No. If you hang on, you can be even surprised towards the end. And Buchard, I mean, he's struggling now to stay in front.
Yeah, that Penske really is.
Yeah,
it's not a nice car to drive.
I mean, no questioning of the abilities of Buchard as a driver, but the problem is that he got a lucky pass, and now he's going to struggle for the rest of the race because I think the car behind him is actually quicker. Problem is, of course, as we have said so many times, not just being quicker, but making it through. And so far, Buchard has proved to be able to fend off very well with Little Al and keep him behind. So it's going to be for sure a very, very complicated race for both of them.
Indeed.
Also very fun, because this is what you actually want as a driver. At least if you are not that type of egoistic, ultra-competitive that you just want the points. I mean, we are here for the fun, and when you have such a nice battle over many laps with the same driver, it's always so comforting that even if you finish behind him, it's like, yeah, mate, hats off. It was very fun indeed.
Quite so. I remember one race would have been close to 10 years ago now for me, but I was driving a Ford Mustang in the old Touring Car Legends mod, and we were at Simmons Plains, and I think me and would have been Ben Paulet, I think, driving another Mustang. We were first and second, me in second, and I hounded him for a good 20 laps or so, trying to find a way past, and had one really hard stab on the final lap into the final corner of the track, but didn't manage to pull it off. But we had a laugh afterwards because we both had so much fun just trying to, like you described, trying to have a good battle and trying to make a move or staying ahead and not make mistakes.
Yeah, so as the race is right now, I think that the situation to be focused on is Buchard and Little Al, who nearly crashed right now, as Buchard had to slow down a lot in the track, but I think very much the rest of the positions are settled. So the Penske gets a bit of TV time.
Indeed, let's jump
Same
on
as the
board.
Marlboro sponsor.
Let's jump on board on the Patrick Racing cars T-Cam and watch the battle here between Little Al and Jules Bouchard.
I think either Bart is using less wing, sorry, or more boost, because it's incredible how he rockets out of the turn, leaving Little Al behind, even if they are on the same engine. And you can see here how in this twisty section, look at this, look at here. I mean, here the Penske is clearly slower, as you would expect, but Bouchard makes a very good work, of blocking. But look now here what happens. There he goes. It's like goodbye.
I wonder, could it also be different, slightly different gearbox ratios being run by these two? Because obviously Bouchard had a really good run coming out of the final.
Oh, look at that!
turn,
Look at that!
Oh, here they go, side by side. Ooh, squarely on the brakes. Both survive. Bouchard holds on. Wow, that was close.
I think it's a different set of the wings. I think that Bouchard has clearly less wing, because even if the Penske chassis is worse, I don't think that justifies the difference that we are seeing both in the main straight and in the slow section. So in my opinion, it's mostly a win situation. Locking there, we have seen that many times in the case of Bouchard. That Penske is like, I mean, whatever the outcome is, Bouchard gets extra points for doing this job with the Penske, that's for sure.
Definitely so.
And the other hero of this race, I should say, is David Watman, because unless something unexpected happens, I think he made his pit stop in time. And even same as Grant with a different strategy forced due to the early pit stop, he made the most of it. And is now fourth.
Right, so another one soldiering on and getting a good reward out of it. Yeah, you're probably right about the wings, but I'm fairly sure there's also just slightly different gearbox ratios being run, because Bouchard gets such a good run out of the second to last turn and through the final turn, but coming out of turn 2, Little Al is able to run with more speed, obviously, but also gets a good run out and side by side, round outside again for Equino. Wow! There's not much room, but they made room for two cars.
I was about to mention that Little Al certainly had the advantage when coming out of that turn at the end of the main straight, and he has made it sure pay off. This is the only place where Bouchard was weak, was this one, because due to the presumably lower wings, he had to brake harder here. And this is the point where Little Al was able to get a bit of an advantage.
Indeed, and unfortunately for us, with what is some 12 or so laps, I reckon, for the leaders left, most battles are probably sorted here.
Yeah, we will see. It seemed like that before, when Little Al had already overtaken.
True, very true.
But that, we'll see. I mean, he has put nearly a second now on him, because obviously he was quicker, and make no mistake about it. I mean, if you are able to overtake like that on the track, it's usually unless there is a big driver error because you were simply quicker. So it was something waiting to happen. Is the job, the task of the driver in front, be able to fend off a car that is quicker? But if the other car got there behind you, usually it's because it's quicker. So if the speed differential is big enough, then sooner or later it's going to happen.
Indeed.
Like I said, still bonus style points for Bugard for being able to battle with the Penske that well and for so long.
Quite. That more or less has the feelings of Senna versus Mansell at Monaco. What would that have been, 1991 or 92, I believe? When Senna on very old tires were able to hold off Mansell for a success as such around Monaco, being sideways and crossed up and all the rest of it. He was driving the wheels off his McLaren back then. But that being said, with what would that be, 9 laps to go, let's have a look at the trivia question and answer before the end of the race, because if anything happens, we'll switch back to it. So the question for you this evening was who won the Meadowlands IndyCar race the most times? Was it A, Mario Andretti, his son in the option B, Michael Andretti, or was it C, Bobby Rahal? I can't quite remember what option you chose earlier.
I was going for Bobby Rahal just because.
And that is a very sound option, because that is correct. Because
great.
Bobby Rahal won the Meadowlands IndyCar race at 3 different occasions. In the 1987 race that we're doing now, in 1989 and in 1991. So he had quite a bit of success on this track. So I suppose maybe he is one of the few drivers that actually enjoyed racing on this track.
Probably so. It's interesting that Grand Prix d'Al is catching up and very close now to Anders Nilsson, but it's 1 lap behind. So, I mean, yeah, probably Anders has relaxed the pace and that, but it goes on to show that if the accident had not happened and Grant hadn't been forced to an early pit stop, it could have been very well a fight for the win of the race, in his case. Whatever the case, I mean, it's second so far, which in terms of championship points and keeping it alive, for sure is very important.
Very much so. Any point you can score is a good point. I do believe, though, that even though Niklas has crashed and will be scored in 8th, he will receive the point for most led laps as well. So he gets the 2 bonus points in this event for pole and for leading most laps. So at least the best outcome with the crash having happened. And still just over a second between Little Al and Jules Bouchard, so Bouchard really doing everything he can to try and stay within catching distance if Little Al makes a mistake.
Yeah, that's your job as a driver. I mean, if you're not able to stay in front, at least you can make the guys in front lives miserable enough.
Indeed. So 146 laps in the books, 4 laps to go for Anders and the rest.
Also, probably being there so close to the end of the race, drivers feel, well, in the case of Puchart, who has more to win than to lose, he feels more like gamey and dicey with the boost knob. Like, well, like the car has lasted so long, I have maybe not forced the engine so much, then why not go for it? Let's see what can some degrees more matter at this point.
Quite. I wonder if that might have been part of what happened in the old famous F1 race where everyone ran out of fuel at Imola. Just everyone more or less going, well, I've had enough fuel this far, I'll just try a little bit to get to the lead here.
Hmm.
But yeah, what a cracker of a race this has been. Despite the high attrition, the action that we've seen has been very good.
Yeah, and the different strategies and that have been very interesting. It's interesting to see how much Anders has slowed down to the point that David Motman, for example, is catching up with him also. But then what motivation does Anders have when he's a full lap in front? I mean, for him, it's a matter of babying the car and absolutely not going into any risk.
Well, the thing to be noted is that that is technically a risk in itself because you're not running the kind of rhythm you're used to, but here goes Anders starting the final lap.
I've heard it many times mentioned, and I can attest to that, that one of the marks of the really good drivers, of the guys that stand out, is the ability to change the rhythm during the race according to whatever is needed, and yet be efficient at it and not make mistakes. So I think this speaks volumes in favor of Anders Nilsson and his abilities.
Indeed. And here comes Anders out to the final turn. Through the final turn, I should say. Out to the final turn. To the finish line. And he will win here tonight. Second win in a row for Anders in the Dick Simon Racing entry in his Lola. Finishing second is Grant Riddall in the Rainer Racing Lola. John Tim coming through the final turn to finish third, and I believe hold on to the championship lead, and he looks, I'd consider that probably happy to finish third considering where he started. First March in to finish. David Wattman has crossed the finish line to finish fourth in his Alex Morales Motorsports entry. Alberto Equino finishes fifth for Patrick Racing. Jus Bouchard, with style points and a lot of good gusto, finishes sixth for Penske. And Ray Riddall, final finisher, in seventh. Our retirees, but still classified for points, as Niklas Kirsten, Jason White in ninth, Dave Miller 10th, Thiago Canola 11th, and Brian Yannick will score 1 point for 12th. Also retired were Simon Wattman, Richard Wilkes, Bruno Chacon, Filippo Marazzi, Juha Bos, and David Saber, unfortunately retiring on the opening lap.
Yeah, and goes on to show, as we were saying, that in the case of Raridal, it probably has been a miserable race due to damage, but in the end, look at that. I mean, seventh position. So
Quite so.
that's always good to have those extra points.
That is definitely true.
Right, so I will have to leave you all right now, but as usual, it was a pleasure to be here. Fun race, and it was really great to be here broadcasting with you, Jonathan, and see you all on the next one.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for your expert comments on this race.
Yes.
So, a hectic and very interesting race. A lot of action, quite a bit of attrition, but overall, really good fun to watch. So this event has finished, and coming up next is the Molson Indy Toronto for these drivers in this championship, which will take place on April 20th. But before that, we have another race, that being the AVD MVBL Rundstreckenrennen Bergischer Löwe. Round 6 of 11 in the 1979 DRM Division 2 Championship. That will take place on April 6th, which will be next Sunday, with Jason White in the booth, bringing us all the action from the beautiful track of Solda that event will take place at. But with that, considering no drivers seem to be heading towards the booth here, we will be finishing off the broadcast. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed this event as much as me and Alberto did commentating on it. And yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you next weekend for the DRM race. But until then, take care and good night.